welcome to a journey of self-discovery and reflection. Today, we are going to dive into one of the most fascinating and mysterious concepts in spiritual and esoteric philosophy, the monad. This ancient term invites us to explore the deepest essence of the human being and its connection to the universe. The monad is a concept found in different philosophical, religious, and esoteric traditions. Although its meaning may vary, it is generally understood as the primordial unity, the divine spark, or the spiritual principle that exists within each being. We can imagine it as an individualized expression of the absolute, a small manifestation of the whole which embarks on a journey through existence to live, learn, and expand its consciousness. It would thus be the spark of pure consciousness present in every form of life, from the simplest organisms to the most complex beings. This concept invites us to a deep reflection on the nature of the soul. What are we truly beyond the physical body, personality, emotions, and fleeting experiences? The idea of the monad suggests that there exists within us a deeper, higher, and permanent identity, an essence that remains beyond the changes we go through in life. It also invites us to reflect on the evolutionary journey of each soul. Every experience, every lesson, every encounter, and every challenge can be part of a greater path, a path of expanding consciousness, inner growth, and eventual return to the source. The monad also helps us to understand the connection between the microcosm and the macrocosm. The small spark that exists within us would reflect on a smaller scale the grandeur of the universe. We would be, in a certain way, mirrors of a divine totality. To understand the monad is, therefore, to seek to understand our own spiritual nature. It is to recognize the potential that exists within us and to embark on a journey of knowledge, transformation, and enlightenment. The roots of this concept can be found in the philosophy of ancient Greece. Thinkers such as Pythagoras and Plato contributed to the development of ideas that would later be expanded upon by different philosophical and spiritual schools of thought. For the Pythagoreans, unity occupied a fundamental place in the understanding of reality. The monad represented the original principle, the unity from which multiplicity arose. It was seen as the starting point of numbers, geometry, harmony, and even cosmic order itself. Everything that exists would have emerged from this primordial unity. The monad would thus be the invisible foundation behind everything we perceive in the material world. However, it was especially in Neoplatonism that this idea gained greater depth. Plotinus, one of the main Neoplatonic philosophers, taught that all reality emanated from a supreme principle called the One. The One would be the absolute source, transcendent and impossible to fully describe through words. It would be beyond all forms, concepts, and human limitations. From the One, reality would manifest itself through different levels of existence and consciousness, from the highest and most subtle planes to the material world that we know through the senses. This process of emanation would not mean a literal division of the One, but rather a progressive manifestation of reality. The farther from the source, the more limited and fragmented existence would seem. From this perspective, the divine spark would be present at all levels of creation. The monad would not be just an abstract idea, but the presence of the divine principle in every being and in every dimension of reality. One of the most important teachings associated with the monad is its eternal nature. According to various spiritual traditions, it would not be subject to birth or death because it exists beyond the limitations of time and space. The birth and death of the physical body would be merely changes of state. Death would not represent the end of the spiritual essence, but a transition to another form of existence. After physical death, the monad would continue its journey on other planes, continuing its process of learning, evolution, and refinement. It is important to remember that these ideas belong to the field of spiritual philosophy and esoteric traditions, and do not constitute claims proven by science. Another fundamental characteristic of the monad would be its individuality. Although it is connected to the whole, each monad would possess a unique expression. It would be a manifestation of the divine with its own path, its own experiences, and a particular way of developing consciousness. Each monad would carry the lessons acquired throughout its spiritual journey. Each one would have its own pace, its own challenges, and its own path of evolution. The monad would also be in constant development. Its purpose would be to progressively approach wisdom, spiritual perfection, and conscious union with the Absolute. According to some esoteric schools of thought, this evolution would occur through multiple incarnations, experiences, and planes of existence. Each life would be an opportunity to learn new lessons, develop virtues, overcome limitations, and purify consciousness. The monad is also described as the deepest source of consciousness, spiritual intelligence, and will. It would be the inner center from which our highest capacities emanate. It is what drives us to seek meaning, truth, growth, and purpose. It can manifest through intuition, that silent inner voice that calls us to a more conscious existence, aligned with who we truly are. The journey of the monad is often described as a cyclical process of descent and ascent. The descent represents the approach to matter. It is the moment when consciousness plunges into physical experience, into duality, emotions, desires, and the limitations of the material world. In this phase, the monad would traverse different planes of existence, taking on various forms and exploring the countless possibilities of creation. Each incarnation would function as a school, a space for experiences, choices, mistakes, relationships, learning, and transformation. Physical life would thus be a true laboratory of consciousness. After the descent, the path of ascent would begin. The ascent represents the conscious return to the source. It is a process of purification, integration, and elevation of consciousness, driven by the experiences lived and the lessons learned. Along this path, the monad would assimilate new knowledge, understand the meaning of the challenges it has faced, and integrate the truths discovered during its journey. With each lesson learned, consciousness would expand. The essence would become more luminous, more balanced, and more aligned with its divine origin. The ultimate goal would be the conscious reunion with the One, the Absolute, or the primordial source. It would not necessarily mean the destruction of individuality, but rather the understanding that separation was never absolute. The soul would recognize that it has always been part of the whole. The journey of the monad can therefore be understood as a powerful metaphor for the human quest for enlightenment. It is the sacred journey of returning to our eternal home, the profound and ultimate reunion with our own true, authentic nature, and the discovery that the luminous and eternal divine spark we seek outside has always been present within us. There are also many other profound spiritual concepts that are often deeply related to the monad. One prominent example of these concepts is the deeply rooted philosophical idea of a soulmate. Some esoteric traditions suggest and maintain the belief that certain souls may share a similar spiritual origin, or possess an exceptionally powerful and profound energetic affinity. These souls, although following individual paths, could meet again throughout different lifetimes to share lessons, awaken deep emotions, or accelerate each other's growth. However, it is important not to confuse a deep spiritual connection with emotional dependency. Not all intense relationships are meant to last. Some people come into our lives to accompany us. Others appear to awaken us, challenge us, or teach us something essential. True spiritual evolution does not happen when we give our power to someone else, but when each encounter helps us return to ourselves. Another association found in some esoteric systems is the connection between the monad and astrology. In these interpretations, the monad represents the deep, permanent, and spiritual self. In astrology, the sun often symbolizes the central identity, life force, creativity, and individual purpose. For this reason, some schools interpret the sun sign as a partial reflection of how the spiritual essence seeks to manifest itself during a particular incarnation. Even so, the monad should not be reduced to the sun sign. Astrology fundamentally endeavors to represent and interpret the various multifaceted dimensions of personality and the vast spectrum of human experience, while the monad serves as a profound gateway that points toward a much deeper underlying spiritual reality. These are just a few examples of how the concept of the monad relates to different areas of philosophical and spiritual knowledge. Its richness lies precisely in its ability to make us question who we are, where we come from, and what the true purpose of our existence might be. Are we merely physical bodies that live for a few decades? Or is there within us a deeper consciousness that passes through different experiences and seeks to remember its origin? The monad offers us a broad perspective on existence. It reminds us that each life can have meaning, direction, and an opportunity for growth. It invites us to view challenges not only as obstacles, but also as opportunities for evolution. It invites us to view challenges not only as obstacles, but also as opportunities for evolution. It shows us the grandeur of the journey of consciousness through the different planes of existence. Above all, the idea of the monad conveys hope to us. It suggests that no suffering, no learning, and no experience are completely useless. Everything can be integrated and transformed into consciousness. Even when we feel lost, separated, or distant from our essence, the divine spark remains present within us. Perhaps we have never truly been separated from the source. Perhaps we have simply forgotten who we are. And the spiritual journey is, at its core, the process of remembering. May this reflection on the monad illuminate your path of self-discovery. May it inspire you to listen to your inner self, to expand your consciousness, and to recognize the divine spark that dwells within you. Because to understand the monad is to understand that we are not isolated beings in an indifferent universe. We are living expressions of the universe itself. We are consciousness in evolution. We are part of the whole.